Orleans. In Brooklyn, these young men, their lives about to change. I called Ja Morant would wear pinstripes.
You did.
Oh,
it's like lavender.
Yeah, these guys.
I love
like
it.
the pastels.
And the flowers.
Let's go back to the 80s. Bring it back.
Great hair, too. Kawhi Leonard. It's been 8 years since the San Diego State star was selected 15th overall by the Indiana Pacers, then traded that night to the San Antonio Spurs. Now the newly crowned champs were hoping, praying Kawhi stays in Toronto. Raptors don't have a draft pick until the end of the second round, 59th overall, because their first round pick went to the Spurs in the Kawhi trade. So all they can do now is sit back and wait to see what he decides. Stay in Toronto, become a free agent on June 29th. Nick Nurse asked about that today by Golick and Wingo.
I just never really talked to him about it ever. You know, I never addressed it. We never, ever even went close to going down that road at all. It was all about let's try to win the next game and let's try to see, you know, how much better our team can get. And he takes that really seriously, man. The only ever conversations I had to him were really early on and just trying to figure out who he was and what his goals as a basketball player and as a person were. And he always just said, basketball-wise, listen, I want to be healthy and play a long time. I really love the game, and I'm all about winning.
Ryan Windhorst joins us now live from the Knicks facility. And, Wendy, this decision feels a little different than LeBron's decision 9 years ago. You were front and center for that. But the domino effect is going to be huge. What are you hearing about Kawhi's mindset right now?
Yeah, well, he's got to be at this point the most powerful guy in the NBA. That was probably going to be Kevin Durant, but that injury changed hands, just like the trophy changed hands. If Kawhi Leonard stays with the Toronto Raptors, league executives expect it to be a short contract, a one-year contract with a player option in it or something along those lines. They would be able to bring back 7 of their top 8 players if Marc Gasol opts in. They would be favorites probably to win the championship again, depending on what else happens this summer. That's the power of Kawhi Leonard. If he leaves and goes, let's say, to the Los Angeles Clippers, they, I think, would be favorites to win the West. So where Kawhi goes the power in the NBA.
And, of course, nobody would be surprised if he goes to L.A., his hometown, there with the Clippers. Speaking of domino effects, you mentioned KD, and the injury with what he went through continues to be huge, the fallout there. How are the Warriors, Brian, trying to manage this?
Yeah, and they're trying to figure out a way to get Kevin Durant to remain with them. And one of the options that could be at their feet is offering Kevin Durant a 5-year contract, getting him to re-sign with them and rehab with them. And then later on, be it midway through next season or even into next summer, they work with him on a trade somewhere else that he would want to go. Going that route, Sage, would get Kevin Durant an extra $57 million guaranteed and protect the Warriors and help them get assets. Whether or not Durant would be open to it, that's another story. But it's certainly one of the options that the Warriors may investigate heading towards free agency.
$57 million. That's a lot of money, even if you are Kevin Durant. All right, you mentioned the Knicks. We've heard it for a long time. They're focused on R.J. Barrett with the 3rd overall pick, but they've been busy the last couple days working out Darius Garland, Kobe White. What's the latest, Brian?
Yeah, they had some workouts the last couple of days. That was due diligence stage. Unless something strange happens with the number 2 pick, the Knicks will be focused on R.J. Barrett for the number 3 pick tonight. All
right, Brian Windhorst, part of our NBA draft coverage all night long right there at the Knicks facility. Thank you, sir. In the meantime, there he is, Zion. You see, most importantly, Nagandi says he approves of the off-white.
That is the off-white.
It's such a huge decision. These pictures last forever. Just ask Jalen Rose. As Zion Williamson, you know what? A man of the fans, all the kids. What a moment for them. Love that they're part of this history tonight in Brooklyn. And
I love days like this. It is almost time. Tonight, dreams will come true for 60 young men and their families on the big stage in Brooklyn.
Yeah, finally, tonight's the night. The 73rd NBA draft is upon us. You know, it feels like we know how those first couple of picks are going to go, but you just never know. Anything can happen once the teams are officially on the clock. And look, our clock says we are just under 1 hour away from tonight's draft. Here are the storylines as we get you set. The top storylines, of course, Zion Williamson, the young man we all assume will be taken number 1 overall by the New Orleans Pelicans, who've had their eyes set on the Duke freshman to become the new face of their franchise. Once the Zion domino presumably falls, Ja Morant and R.J. Barrett are expected to go at picks 2 and 3 respectively. Morant to Memphis to join the Grizzlies, Barrett to the Big Apple with the Knicks. So the real intrigue of the draft is expected to begin at pick number 4. The Lakers will be making the pick on behalf of the Pelicans as part of the Anthony Davis trade. But Who goes at number 4? And will that pick be moved? Can't wait for that storyline. One of the biggest risers up the draft board right now is North Carolina point guard Kobe White. He had a private workout with the Knicks just this morning. And in the latest ESPN mock draft, White is projected to go 6th overall to the Suns. But regardless of who goes where, tonight's the night the lives of many young men will change forever.
No one did a team would like to take me number 1. I mean, you can't dream this any better than that.
This is what every basketball player dream of, is having the chance to play at the NBA level, and right now I have that chance.
I'm built for this because I feel like I'm really ready for the challenge.
If you know me, I try to make everything fun, so it's been fun for me.
You know, you see how I am, you see what I've done so far in my career. I just feel like I accept the challenge, and I'm really going to give it everything I got.
It's been weird, like turning on ESPN or something. My name's just right there. Obviously something I'm not used to.
I just get to be myself. I'm not trying to be nobody. I'm just trying to be the first line.
ESPN NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski joins us now live from Barclays Center in Brooklyn with some breaking news. Woj, we just described what that 4th pick is all about. The Lakers selecting on behalf of the Pelicans, part of that Anthony Davis trade. What is breaking? What's going on?
Well, Sage, now the Pelicans, the Lakers will be selecting on behalf of the Atlanta Hawks. They have traded into that number 4 spot. They're going to give New Orleans number 8, number 17, number 35 in tonight's draft, a protected first-round pick next year that they have from Cleveland. And New Orleans sends that 4th pick, Solomon Hill, and his expiring contract, the number 57 pick tonight, and a future 2nd-round pick to the Atlanta Hawks for the 4th pick. And with the 4th pick, Atlanta's GM Travis Schlenk is targeting Virginia's DeAndre Hunter. This has been the player he has been pursuing throughout this preseason. Last year, he went up he made the deal with Dallas to select Trae Young. This year, he moves up to get Hunter. That's a pretty significant core they put together with the Hawks. And New Orleans continues to expand this Anthony Davis deal, get even more value, more picks from that trade last Saturday.
Yeah, and again, we were saying just a minute ago, who knows what's going to happen with that number 4 pick. Now we know 8, 17, and 35. So, Woj, let's start with the Pelicans. Give us the mindset of David Griffin now, the new GM there, who's making all kinds of moves.
Well, they wanted to see what the marketplace would hold for number 4. Minnesota was really aggressive trying to get up into that spot. But Atlanta having 3 of the top 17 picks, gave them the opportunity to do this and the cap space to take on Hill's contract. And, now, listen, David Griffin can draft at 8 and 17 tonight. He could go back and look for another trade here and move those picks. So he's got a lot of flexibility. But that original Laker deal that included 3 first-round picks, now it's become 4 or 5 picks. That Cleveland pick next year that goes to the Pelicans probably turns into 2 second-round picks. It's heavily protected. But I think both GMs really got what they were pursuing here. Both had a lot of flexibility, multiple picks to play with.
And you look at the Atlanta Hawks, too, Woj. And a year ago, getting Trae Young, and, of course, he's up for Rookie of the Year. He had one heck of a rookie season with the Atlanta Hawks. But overall, on a national level, we don't hear too much about Atlanta. Describe what's going on with this franchise as they try to climb up the ranks of the Eastern Conference.
They've just done a tremendous job there of maximizing these picks. Not just Trae Young last year, but Kevin Huerter, who they also got in the first round, and in this, and then John Collins, who's was the first pick Travis Schlenk made in Atlanta. Lloyd Pierce, you saw the improvement in that team last year as they went on, and they're a young team that is already very competitive. Another year of watching these young players grow, and then all of a sudden, maybe Atlanta is a team that, with their cap space and how clean their financial books are, they could be out in free agency. This is exactly how ownership in Atlanta imagined this going with the multiple picks they had going forward. Travis Schlenk has maximized, a lot of those at bats in the draft, and he'll move up tonight. And his plan is to take DeAndre Hunter from Virginia, maybe the best defensive player in this entire draft.
Yeah. So recapping Woj's breaking news once again, the Lakers will now be drafting for the Atlanta Hawks with that number 4 overall pick, while the Pelicans take home, of course, the number 1 pick, we assume is Zion. Also 4, 17, and 35. And hey, we still have almost a full hour to go before the draft begins. Adrian Wojnarowski with the very latest. Stand by. If we need you, we're going to come right back out to you, Woj. Thank you. Coming up with Woj tweeted this. Atlanta has acquired New Orleans, number 4 overall pick in the draft for the 8, 17, and 35th picks. League sources tell ESPN. Pelicans are sending Solomon Hill, the number 57 pick, and a future second-round pick. So there you have it. The breaking news less than an hour before the draft tips off here on ESPN. And Woj goes on to say that Atlanta's pursuing Virginia's DeAndre Hunter with that number 4 pick. Hunter, the National Defensive Player of the Year, the former Virginia guard who saved his best college game for last, a career-high 27 points in the national championship game win for UVA, could be going now to Atlanta. Breaking news, guys, from the NBA, thanks to our Adrian Wojnarowski. Another trade. The Minnesota Timberwolves have traded the number 11 pick in tonight's draft, first round, of course, and forward Dario Saric, who was the 12th overall pick in 2014, to the Phoenix Suns for the number 6 pick in the draft. League sources tell us here at ESPN. Don't tell us. They tell Woj that here at ESPN. So stay tuned as another trade taking place as we get you set for draft night beginning 40 minutes from now here on ESPN. How about those Boston Celtics? They begin the night with 3 first-round picks, number 14, 20, and 22. But that sounds great, but many questions are ahead as we get set for the draft. Think about what's happened over the last 6 weeks with Boston, the heavy favorite in the East this season. Early exit from the playoffs, the drama, disappointment. They attempted to acquire Anthony Davis. That failed as their rival Lakers pulled off the blockbuster trade instead. Then there's the all-star Kyrie Irving, expected to opt out of his deal and become a free agent. He led the team in scoring and assists this past season, but questions about his leadership, among many other things, tainted this season. And big man Al Horford has decided to opt out of the final year of his contract as well. After initial optimism, the two sides were unable to come even close on a long-term extension for Al Horford. Longtime Boston sports reporter Jackie McMullen joins us now live here in SportsCenter from the Celtics practice facility outside of Boston. And Jackie, with Kyrie and Al seemingly on their way out the door, what is the state currently of this Celtics team?
Well, I think it's fair to say, Sage, we're in a little bit of disarray here in Boston and quite a bit of uncertainty. You mentioned the 2 most important veterans, Irving and Horford, are likely gone. You can probably add a third, Aaron Baines, possibly out the door, and then consider that a 4th, Marcus Morris, can leave as an unrestricted free agent and you get nothing in return. So this team is going to look very different next season. That much is certain. Yeah,
it's amazing to think of what we were all saying about them less than a year ago, really.
Right.
So, I mean, how things changed. As far as tonight's concerned, 3 first-round picks, again, 14, 20, and 22 overall. Depending on how everything plays out ahead of that, Jackie, what is their plan with those picks tonight?
Well, Sage, they've already been delivered another blow. They were talking to the Pelicans about that number 4th, number 4 pick, offering multiple picks and other things. That's off the board now. The Atlanta Hawks have that pick. The Boston Celtics don't want all 3 of these picks. I think you'll probably see them either trade them for future picks. Remember now, in the 2022 draft, high school kids can go directly from high school to the pros. So maybe they go for a future pick or they stash a player overseas, which they've done in the past. But nothing good has happened for the Boston Celtics since they traded for Kyrie Irving 2 years ago. It's just been one calamity after the next.
Yeah, it's
truly
been crazy, insane to watch from a distance. You've been right there front and center, and you'll be there for us all night tonight. I mean, from a disappointing season to the health issues, what a year for Danny Ainge. Jackie Mack keeping us up to date from Boston. Kevin?
The opposite of that feeling is the Pelicans tonight.
Yeah.
There is Zion Williamson looking
I love
clean.
the suit, huh?
I am a big fan of the all-white. He is ready for big things tonight on the stage with Adam Silver in just about an hour as we get you set for the NBA draft.